Despite marijuana being more widely accepted across the country, the DEA continues to have it listed as a Schedule 1 drug, which means that there is no medical benefit and highly addictive. I'm pausing for laughter. Now, that's the same category as heroin and LSD. Now, the federal government is trying to change that. So let's talk about it. Hey everybody, it's Dr. David. How are you doing? So, as many of you know, I have been a medical cannabis certifying doctor in the state of Florida since 2016. One of the things that I am passionate about because of all the wonderful benefits it can bring. Of course, there can be some issues as well. But last year, you may remember that President Biden actually put through a actual complete pardoning of any federal convicts who are convicted on low-level crimes relative to marijuana. Just completely pardon them, recognizing that this is just ruining people's lives. Some states are doing that, but it was a federal law, and the states have to make their own call on that. But he did also want the administration to do more. Okay, so obviously it is clear that the cannabis can cause problems for some people. There are people who have hyperemesis where they're throwing up from it, where they can get paranoia from it. It can interfere with quality of life, and obviously people who are working with the physician should be having those types of things monitored. But while it's clear about that, to say that it has and to say that it's highly addictive, I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to reschedule it. So the Schedule 1, as I mentioned, that is again the highest, most dangerous types of drugs that are out there that people can get involved with. But considering highly addictive, and I'd kind of put it up against nicotine or opioids any day of the year because it's not that level of addicted. There are physical dependence that people can have, or psychological dependence on it. But to say that it's a highly addictive substance is just, the facts do not back that up. Okay. And again, to say that there's no medical benefits, I mean, that was the reason to pause for laughter before. To say that there's no medical benefits, I mean, come on. There's research about the seizures, anxiety, handling symptoms relative to chemotherapy. There's quite a long list what it does for people with PTSD. So the research shows clearly that there is medical benefit, and I think that's why a lot of people in our country, including in the government, is realizing that it is time that this very draconian Schedule 1 of the medication of cannabis is really quite ridiculous and needs to change. Okay, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to move it to a Schedule 3. Now, a Schedule 3 is what testosterone and ketamine, those are the kind of categories that it's actually. Schedule 2 is where Ritalin is. So they're actually wanting to take it below the concern for Ritalin, which is, and other methylphenidate stimulant medications, which of course is interesting. But in the definition of a Schedule 3, let me get this right, means moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I'll buy into that, but certainly not what a Schedule 1 is saying. Now, the Human Health and Services Assistant Secretary, her name is Rachel Levine. She actually formally sent this memo to the DEA. And basically said that the recommendation of rescheduling it was based upon some really detailed medical science research and she sent the entire report along. The U.S. government did this work to show that it doesn't qualify for what a Schedule 1 would be. Now, this does not mean, and of course the DEA has to approve it. Okay, has to accept it. It's not binding. So hopefully they will have seen the light on this. But, it doesn't decriminalize it. Now, of course, in the United States, lots of states have completely legalized it already. That's 23 states. And 38 states have it at least as including medical and decriminalized as well. So, of course, if this move does happen and the DEA reschedules it, then of course that would give a lot of legislators who have had pause in this more comfort in moving forward if the DEA says, oh, but this is okay. And I think we all can agree that if alcohol and if nicotine is legal in this country without having that type of regulation, that again, it's kind of pathetic to not think that alcohol, that cannabis can be in that same mode. Realistically, if you look at all and you talk to doctors, I think most will agree that relative to nicotine and alcohol, that cannabis is probably the safest option. Okay, so now why is this important besides for the descheduling? So first of all, if they do that, the cannabis companies, people in the industry can actually then start to take tax exemptions for paying their staff and giving benefits, salaries and stuff like that, because obviously a company, and we know that a lot of the industry is struggling right now because of the high expenses. They don't get these types of benefits. So that would actually change pretty much right away. It will also make it that US legislators can change the banking rules around, can make it that that banks can be involved in the financial, the services, can offer it to these companies as well. Now in our particular case, we've had a struggle with this because in our holistic relief clinic, in our medical cannabis clinic, credit cards is an issue because they have to be associated with a bank, and so that's something that we've dealt with. And people, when they go to medical dispensaries, they're not allowed to use credit cards there either. They can have an ATM there, etc. They can go get cash ahead of time, but they can't just use the regular credit card. Okay, now there is legislation that has been moving slowly. Senate Majority Leader Schumer has been one of the biggest advocates for this, but it's been moving along slowly. Now, there's a better chance that this will move faster again if these types of changes are came. But it's actually felt that they may not even need to have that kind of laws passed if this goes through. So that's kind of interesting. I'm sure there'll be some level of litigation for that, but let's also face it, there's not much opposition to it right now. Medical cannabis is one of the more popular things in our country right now, probably the most bipartisan support besides Santa Claus and puppy dogs. You may have heard me say that before, but it's become quite commonly comfortable that people are doing it, especially for medical. Okay, now what are some other benefits? In my opinion, most important, easier to do research. Now, the only cannabis that's currently allowed to be researched in America is a decade-old cultivar. People call them strains. They're actually called cultivars as they're cultivated, and strains are for bacteria, not for plants. But that it's this old low potency product that is grown only at the University of Mississippi. Okay. And realistically, it's not even close to anything that's out there right now. So people can't even be doing research on the types of products which are higher potency and therefore need to be researched at that higher THC content in order for us to really know what's going on. But they will be able to do more research on it. That's great. Okay. Now, pharmaceutical companies. Now, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. Now, it would be interesting to see if pharmaceutical companies are actually going to get into more of the high-end cultivation and strains and those types of things, which I doubt they will. Okay, and I don't know how and would people use it if it's that, but obviously a pharmaceutical would only get it through a prescription, and obviously we're not prescribing it. Although technically, I guess doctors could prescribe it if it's rescheduled, because we're allowed to prescribe Schedule 3. So it'd be interesting to see that. But the more important thing, in my opinion, is for them to be able to start researching derivatives of it. So different cannabinoids, derivatives of THC, specifics, isolating THC. Now, of course, those in the natural world believe in the power of the plant as a whole, the entourage effect that we get from everything that's within the plant. But we also do know, for instance, there's research that's coming up in Israel now. They're actually putting a database together where they're finding that certain genetics of cannabis may be good for specific genetics of cancer, and actually be able to suppress it, not just to provide the benefits when people are undergoing cannabis treatment, but chemo treatment, but actually, maybe able to fight it off. Maybe they'll be able to isolate other things that can help with ADD and anxiety and all of those other things that may be more specific and studied for that particular condition. Okay, and of course, not everybody wants to be smoking it or vaping it, or may want to get something that's more pharmaceutical grade. And hey, from my perspective, if that's what a consumer wants, if that's what a patient wants, I have no problem with that. I want people to get relief, and it's nice if it could be something that is derived from cannabis, from a plant, right? We know that penicillin came from mold on oranges. We know that aspirin came from the bark, I think it's willow bark, if I'm not mistaken. So we know that that's one of the things there too. Now, but I do wonder, are pharmaceutical companies going to start selling weed? I don't know. It's kind of funny to think about it, but who knows? Okay. Now, there is some level of uncertainty about this, because if the FDA does decide to fully enforce Schedule 3, right? Not anybody could just go get ketamine or sell or testosterone obviously has to be in some way. So might it put some restrictions on people being able to access what they can access now? And I guess it's possible, but I really don't think that any state is going to reverse their policy and make it more restrictive once it's there. They know the tax benefits, especially on the recreational side of things, and they're comfortable with it already. So I know that's a concern that has been expressed. That's not overly concerning to me. Now, so while overall, again, not fully legalizing, but it is a big step forward, I do think it is something that will be helpful for the power of the plant. So, hope you enjoyed this talk. If you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe to this channel. We're growing nicely, and we really want to get the word out there. And we know that the more subscribers we have, the more likes we get, that the more it works up in the algorithms, so more people can find us. Have a great day.